Yo, welcome back to the Modern Creative Podcast. Your boy, Alberto Mendoza. Today, I got my boy, once again, Santiago Castro. Dude, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's the end of our trip, but it's bittersweet, you know?
Yeah, we'll get to that right now. But right now, we are currently in Big Bear Lake, California. We did a little bit of snowboarding. We did some bonding. We did some deep breathing exercises, cold plunge, a lot of gaming nights, tons of laughs, which is probably like my favorite part of the trip. Talked about goals and talked about how we're gonna succeed even further in 2024. And Santiago hit me up a couple months ago, let me know, hey, we're gonna be doing this trip for my company, OE, Optic Element. And so he says, hey, you're more than welcome to join our team, join the trip, even though you're not technically on the team. And I said, dude, that's dope. I'm down to do it. So now we're here and we're pretty much packing up at this point and get ready to go home, man. But Santiago, what do you think about this trip, man?
Man, it was nice, man. It was a little longer than what we usually do. So it was Wednesday to Friday, or Wednesday to Sunday, technically to being Sunday. And we kind of like took it a different approach this year. Got a cabin, had some people come in, do like you said, the breath work stuff. And I think it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I feel like it was a good reset for myself and a good kind of detach from our normal environment. And I'm glad the team enjoyed it. The team kind of felt the same way. And last year we did the similar trip, but we went to Trona Pinnacles. I don't know if you're familiar with that spot.
Well, when you told me, I took a look at the photos and it looks pretty dope over there.
It's pretty dope, yeah. It's like, it's where they shot like Planet of the Apes. And it was kind of a last minute trip, to be honest. We were just kind of like, hey, let's go somewhere dope. Got an RV, some tents, and then we posted up. And it was that trip was really fun, but I didn't get the rest factor because I was like, it was just stress the whole time. Like the RV got stuck in the sand. We had to pull it out and like a
lot of problem solving.
Like literally a lot of problem solving, a lot of team bonding for sure. But at the end of the trip, I felt more exhausted versus at the end of this trip, I feel pretty like rejuvenated. Like, you know, it was really nice to go out snowboarding and then, you know, do like the breath work and just kind of have dinner together, play games. And it was really like refreshing for sure. So I'm definitely feeling like that exactly what I wanted out of it, which was like a reset, a rest, because I don't really rest that often, which is something that I'm working on, but I definitely wanted to do that here. So, yeah, man.
One thing I've noticed, man, with this trip, I didn't know any of your team members besides just meeting them for the first time in a pod, but I got to know a lot of them in a deeper level, and they all spoke very highly of you. And I know it's easy for technically employees to talk good about their boss because they're kind of supposed to do it, but no, they were like genuine about it. Like they like really trust your vision. They really trust where you're leading them towards, and they just trust the process, I guess. How does that make you feel about like having your team, dude, just riding this wave with you guys?
Yeah, it's not easy for sure. Like especially being in a startup, and although the industry that we're in is not like it's not like we're doing something that's crazy difficult. You know, people want what we have, but you know, with any business in the beginning, like it is always going to be hard. You know, and especially if it's your first business, and it's really nice, man, to have like a team that's just like on point and they're tied down with the vision. They see it and they kind of like are willing to go forward and really go and have that kind of like that mentality of like, you know, I know that this is going to be something big because they're putting in, you know, their sweat equity now. And it really for me is everything, because, you know, like you can't build anything without others. And if everybody on my team were to leave tomorrow, like I would be screwed. You know what I mean? Like I can't do anything that I do, you know, without them, and they're everything to me. And you know, we're like a family. You know, obviously we're a startup. We were all friends, and some people, you know, came into the business like they're just and became a friend out of it. And so that's kind of how we treat ourselves, just because. To me, like, you know, one of our clients says this pretty often, and I feel like I've kind of adopted it, is that there's no line between, you know, my family and my business. It's all the same. And to me, I've had the same philosophy of there's no line between my work and my life. You know how people try to say like, oh, like you want to have like a work-life balance, and I think that's not like necessarily ideal or even realistic, because when you say work-life balance, what you're insinuating is that there has to be one that like is going to lose at some point, you know, like, because a balance it's a teeter-totter, you know what I mean? It's not like always going to be straight. So you're saying that at some point you're going to have to sacrifice one for the other. And for me, like, you know, my life is everything, and my business is part of my life. And then the people that I do business with and that are on my team are also part of my life. So there's really, to me, no separation there. So it's awesome to do life with these people, and that they trust me, and that they allow me to pour into them and do all that stuff. And to me, it means everything, man.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you went out of your way to like set up this trip. That's we've been here for 5 days, I think, and obviously it cost a pretty penny. And like the fact that you're willing to invest into your own people, and I keep hearing the word family throughout the entire week. Just observing from the outside in, which was pretty cool. And it's just cool that you, as a young individual, you're 25 years old, correct?
Yeah.
You, as a young individual, have this sort of foundation set at such a young age is pretty impressive, man. And the fact that you're willing to think ahead and like, let me invest back into my peoples to like, hey, let's all have fun at the end of the year. Let's just pretty much decompress because it's been a solid year. It's been a stressful year, but it's been a successful year. And with success comes with a lot of struggle. If you want to talk about a little bit about your 2023 year business-wise.
Yeah, man. This year, I feel like I've been kind of sharing this a little bit more with my friends, and especially my friends that are in business as well. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have been having the same theme with this year. But I feel like, I mean, like anybody in the beginning of the year, you're like, this year's going to be my year. We're going to grow, we're going to expand. And I really was like, mindset was like, this is going to be a year of growth, because last year, 2022, was technically our first full year of business. Because we
with the team too, right?
Yeah, with the team, yeah. Because we started in 2021, but I started it when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2021, right in the middle of the year, and I didn't really build a team until maybe the end of the year. And then that team, I don't think anybody is here from that team except with the exception of one person, because I was just learning, the ins and outs of who's a good fit, who's not. But I'd say like 2022. Up to the end of last year pretty much was the first full year. So I was like, okay, cool. First year that we get to measure. And that year was amazing. Like we did really well. Like we traveled a lot, made a lot of money. Team was growing, but we were also in my garage too. So we were, like overhead was really low. And so we were like, okay, cool, let's do this again. But next year, just with a studio, right? And so, I got financially prepared for that by the end of the year. And then my baby was going to be due in February. And then pretty much literally I'm very thankful. My wife and I, last year, we kind of like, I had a feeling that we were going to walk into a really hard season. Like it's kind of like something that, it's almost like when you feel like, you feel like there's like a storm coming. And I had a feeling that like there's something like that was going to happen. And so, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we took it really chill. Like we didn't have anybody over. We hung out with some friends, didn't do much. Like it was very, very chill. And just because we knew that it's kind of almost like the calm before the storm. And literally as soon as January hit, like it just was like a ground, like just hitting the ground running, and just the whole way through. Like our baby was born early, so late January. Then we moved into the studio in February.
And you got to build it
after,
too.
Yeah, and then we had to build it. It was just it was just completely nothing. It was just a warehouse, and then some office spaces. We had to paint, build, design, all that stuff, and all that while having a newborn baby. And it was a lot to begin with. And then plus I don't know if you've ever like moved. Like moving homes is stressful, right? So it's the same amount of stress, but also you're having to take care of your current clients while trying to grow, but also putting money into your business, and then obviously having a baby. So it's like, like somebody, I forgot, I was telling this to somebody, and they said that, that they were just like amazed because one of the biggest things or the most stressful things you can do is moving, growing a business, having a baby, getting married, getting divorced, death, things like that. And I was doing 3 out of those at the same time. And I was like, it's funny because I was like, I'd say like I was a little cocky mentally of like, I feel like I have a really high capacity. I can deal with a lot. I can do a lot. Like I can go to sleep super late, have really low sleep, wake up early.
You did it yesterday.
Yeah, operate the whole day like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like I can do that. So I was like, this is going to be cake. It's going to be a little hard, but just cake. And it was not the case at all. Like it humbled me for sure. Like I was like, I actually realized I met myself and I was like kind of like at the end of like, wow, this is like where my capacity hits, like which I've never really felt like
So
in
you
a
like
long
know
time.
where your threshold is at now.
Yeah, and I haven't never pushed myself like that, I guess, because like you know, like the past years were hard, but they weren't that hard. Like to be honest, like they were for sure hard. I'm not gonna like downplay them, but it was nothing that I couldn't get past. Like this year was like at the point where I was like exhausted, just like getting like just like really like getting my like ass handed to me, super humbling. You know, a lot of like painful growth experience. So it ended up being more of a growing pain kind of year rather than a growth year. Although there is growth involved with growing pains, but there was a lot more pain that it felt like than growth. And but it all, you know, worked out. Like there was a lot of things that I'm glad happened that in the moment I probably wouldn't have been grateful for. You know, we had an issue with a client that was a pretty big issue that was like somewhat kind of getting to a legal standpoint, and I've never had to deal with that before. Like, you know, we've always had really good clients, and then you know, luckily I won that. But then the thought,
Shouts to contracts.
for real, yeah. The thought occurred that, hey, like if we're gonna grow, this is not gonna be the last time that something like this is gonna happen.
Has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should get a lawyer. So like that thought process started me looking for a lawyer, and then you know through a client that we do business, like he connected me with one of his best lawyers that he only works with billionaires, and him and I worked out a deal, and he's overseeing all my stuff, and it's honestly he's way out of my budget. Like this dude only works with billionaires, and he's willing to do my stuff for my business, for my personal, building out my estate plan, all that stuff, and none of that would have happened if I didn't have that issue with that client, which was a huge headache. You know, like a lot of money was
I'm
withdrawn
pretty sure
from my
there's a lot of
account,
sleepless
yeah.
nights.
Exactly. But again, now I'm grateful because I have such a blessing where like, you know, and then, you know, that's going to open up other doors and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of that, you know, a lot of pain, which pushed me into a corner to take action, which then the action had, which it's almost like it was pushing me in a direction that I'm grateful for, because it's similar like how when I bought my home when I was like 20, was we were renting and we were living on this really nice property. The property that we lived on itself was a little guest house, super tiny. It like was literally the size of maybe like the whole home was smaller than like the whole living room here in this Airbnb. And then pretty much we got like super comfortable because although the property was small, but the whole like actual property itself was beautiful. Like we had access to a pool, jacuzzi, fireplace, and it was in a beautiful place, beautiful views. But we were just kind of getting a little complacent. It wasn't until like a heat wave happened in San Diego during the summer, and that property had no AC. And the landlord, which is a good friend of mine now, he was trying to get AC installed, but they just kept push back, and just put us in such a level of discomfort where we had to sleep outside. That's how hot it was, because it was like on a second floor, heat rises, there was carpet, and then that uncomfortable, that like moment of being uncomfortable really pushed us into, well, we should move, but I don't want to move into an apartment or home like that we don't own. So then it moved us into the direction of buying a home, right? So that's kind of the same
So
thing.
if that would have not happened, you probably would have still been renting.
I would have been comfortable. I probably would have like maybe stayed there for a little longer. And then, you know, I'm glad I bought my home when I did because it was a great year to buy. You know, equities like almost doubled.
And as we
at
know
this
right
point.
now, it's like insane to like buy or sell.
If I waited a couple years, like it would have definitely been a different situation. And so like it's a lot of times of that uncomfortability is really just like is not designed to break us, but if anything, designed to move us in a direction that we should be going in. And so that's kind of what it's felt like this year. It was a lot of pushing, and it's very humbling, man. I you know, I kind of like grew this, like I guess reputation and even with myself of like I have high capacity, I can deal with anything, and I still have that mentality, but I haven't really like it's almost like it's like going to the gym and you know you put up good weights, but you're not actually really you're not really pushing yourself. You're not like leaving the gym like you know limping, you know. You're just like walking out. Like that's kind of how I've been doing life, and it's been hard, but again walking out like nothing. And then this year has been like still failure for real, like exhaustion, like straight up. Like I've never been exhausted the amount that I've been exhausted this year. And it's and you know I've done a lot. I was in the Marine Corps, and I've done a lot in the Marine Corps. To me, it was easier compared to this year, to be honest. Wow. Just because it was a lot of mental stuff. You know what I mean? It was a lot of internal, physical, and internal stuff happening at the same exact time, and that's like super hard. But
yeah, one thing you did, we talked about yesterday, last night during like the team bonding session on the fire. We had like hot cocoa and all that good stuff. You were describing your first experience snowboarding, which was a couple days ago, and you're full on rookie, kept busting your ass, kept falling, kept hurting yourself. But you had a perfect analogy about how like your business was this year to snowboarding, where it's like, how are these people like just gliding like nothing? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out. And you accidentally took yourself to the highest peak of the mountain instead of going to the bunny slopes. If you want to elaborate more on that, that was a pretty sick analogy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no. So when we saw snowboarding for the first time, and man, it was rough. Like I haven't done anything physically challenging. Like I do MMA, I do jiu-jitsu,
Hard 75.
hard 75 or 75 hard, and then doing the like I'll go on runs. I do these things that are physically hard, but it's like it's a lot of the aspect of me just kind of like it's me versus me or me versus an opponent. And I say when you're when you're going against something that's physical, whether it's another human being, it's a little bit easier. It's tangible, right?
This is Mother Nature we're talking about.
Exactly, right. When you're going against yourself, it's unseen. That's hard. But then when you're going against Mother Nature and yourself, that's like probably the worst combination, because it's like, one, internally, that internal battle, and then two, you're fighting the laws of nature, which is like super freaking, like that's just like you can't control it. There's nothing that you can do. Like when you're fighting with another human being or another person, like you can maneuver in certain ways, you can say things or whatever. Like, but with nature, there's no like I can't negotiate with gravity. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't be like maybe like it's just there's no way, right? So. I went on the top. I thought it was the only slope, to be honest. So we went on that one, and then I straight up like I don't know how to snowboard. I don't even know the where to even start.
I mean, you've only seen the snow, like you said, a handful of times.
Yeah,
You're a Florida kid.
Exactly. Yeah, I've seen snow maybe twice, and it was like like not even like on purpose. Like it was just like it just so happened to be there, and I didn't do anything. I wasn't like going snowboarding or anything like that, and. So, the whole time we're like, okay, I was thinking like how, honestly, same mentality that I had last year. How hard can it be? Like, I can figure it out. Like, it's going to be, like, I was thinking it's going to be a lot easier. And then to the point where, like, as we got closer, I was like, maybe should I prepare? Should I watch a YouTube video? Should I ask somebody to teach me? And I was just kind of like, like in my head of like, I could figure it out. And we got up to the slope, and then we just in the beginning of the like just trying to get to your
get off the chair.
Yeah, to get off the chair was rough. I just already busted my ass, and then from there I got situated, and I buckled up my my last boot, and I was like, okay, cool. I was just watching people just go off like it's nothing, and I was like, it's gonna be cake. And then so I get up and I go and I bust my ass, like not even like I didn't even go that far, and I was like, damn, that actually really hurt. And then so I ended up kind of just I kept going, and then I just kept like just consistently fall, and then I was getting so mad that I would get up and just go again, get up, go again, and then it just I was getting angrier, and my body was starting to hurt way more just because of the consistent falling, to the point where I sat there and I was like, okay, well, let me just watch other people. So I was watching other people the way they were doing it, and I was like, that just looks so easy. I'm like, it makes no sense, and then I was just getting so internally frustrated. And it got to the point where I was almost like in the middle of the mountain, and I was like so like upset with myself, like, and like I was getting mad of seeing all these people just graze by like super quickly, just killing it, and like dudes are just like stopping like it's nothing, like flipping around and doing all these tricks, and I'm like wow, like that makes no sense, like I'm struggling. And
you're an athletic person too.
Yeah,
so
I'm not like I'm out of shape, you know what I mean? Like I was like, it made no sense, and it was just like, and to me, like I hate like not understanding things. And so I was like trying to like study people, and then I'm like, okay, cool. I get up, I do what they did, and then it doesn't work out. And then I was like, just hitting my, and then obviously the time of the year that we're in right now, the snow is not as like
it's man-made snow.
Yeah, it's man-made, so it feels like you're falling on like cold concrete. It doesn't feel like you're falling on snow. So then I was just, completely, busting my ass, getting my ass kicked, and then just watching people just graze through was like getting almost like upsetting. Like I was like, how are these guys just killing it? And I was just kind of like, just really upset with myself. And I was like, man, like kind of in this little pity party. And then I had the realization of like, well, I'm already, halfway through. I can't like go back. Like I can't just, walk up the mountain. The only way to finish is to finish through. And the way I finished through was like a stumble, really. I fell more than I did like snowboard, like I was busting my ass way more. And I had one really bad fall. Like I had like a fall where it was just like this slope that was really just super, super, like just almost like it was one of those, I think it was like probably the most, like, I guess straight drops of
Probably a
the,
diamond.
oh yeah, of that part. And I don't know why I decided to feel like I had confidence right there. And that's where I really really busted my ass where I was like, you know what, I got it. Cause I had like maybe a small, like
A
maybe
little bit of
minute of,
momentum
a
going.
little, like 1 minute of momentum. And I was like, cool. And I mentally, I also wanted, I knew it was a drop. So I was like, I just want to get it over with. And I really like, kind of like, I overestimated how good I was in the moment. And I like completely flipped over. Like I hit my head really hard, my beanie, my glasses fell like in different directions. And I was like laying on the ground for a minute. Some random dude came up to me. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." And like my ribs were hurting. I was like gassed out. I like felt like I got jumped. Like that's what the pain felt like. And after that, like I was like just kind of laying there, and I was like, "Ah, man, I was like at the point where I wanted to just stop. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And and then I just kind of like just slid on my ass like for a while. And then I was like, I'm like, I don't like that. I'm like, this is one, too slow, and two, like it's pathetic, you know? And then so I like, after I kind of like let my body like just kind of like rest a little bit from that, like from that kind of that impact, I ended up just, again, finishing off, busting my ass the way through, then met you guys down at the table. And I was just kind of like mentally just like upset with myself. I was like, you know, like I'm like, why did I just like let this like kick my ass? And because I'm competitive, I don't like to be bad or lose, or even though I wasn't really competing with anybody, like I felt like I lost. And then we, you know, we ate, and then you were talking about how there's like an easier like slope that we can go
Buddy
down.
slopes.
Yeah, and I was like, what? I was like, there's no freaking way. It took me an hour to get down that thing, and I'm talking about like an hour of falling. So I'd say maybe with the amount of time that I rested, I'd say 40 minutes of falling and maybe 5 minutes of actual snowboarding, and then like 15 minutes of me laying there. You know, like if we had to like do the math and accumulate all that stuff. And so and then I was like, okay, well, let me check out these little bunny slopes. And so we checked out the bunny slopes, and that to me was I was able to then kind of like just go back to the basics and just kind of like, okay, cool. I was taking some advice from some people on like how to like maneuver your board, and I kind of like took my time. I did it, although it wasn't like the best. It was a small wind. It was really quick. It was like really easy. It wasn't really exciting to go down, but I wanted to do it like a couple times to kind of build up that like mental strength and that like confidence with myself, and really kind of like prove myself that I can do it. And after I did that, I was like, okay, cool, this is great. And I was honestly good to just clock out, like just all right, like I'm good to just dip. But my wife wanted to go on that slope one more time, and
Redemption.
I was like, man, I don't want to do that. Like I got like I was like in so much pain like from that mountain. I was looking, and like even after we did it, I was looking at when we were eating. I was like, I can't believe I like went down that thing, and then so she was like, hey, like I'm cool with not doing it if you don't want to do it. And then mentally, I was like, well, one, this is not cheap to do, so I'm gonna get my money's worth.
Definitely.
And two, you know, I didn't want to leave defeated by this mountain, you know. So I was like, you know what, like let's do it. Although, like honestly, most of me wanted to not go, but I was just like not letting myself be moved by those thoughts. I was just walking with them, you know, with the people who wanted to go up. And by the time I got on the thing, I was like, well, it's too late now. You know, the only way is to go down. And then we got off the lift, and when I got off the lift, I kind of mastered that part down, so I built that confidence. And on the way, like, because that lift ride is pretty long compared to the other one, and mentally I was like, you know, like first let me change my attitude, you know, like let me like actually go into this, that I'm gonna actually crush this. I have everything that I need. I figured out how to master how to move the board. It's the same thing. The only difference is just a higher mountain. So it's literally, there's nothing different. It's not like it's a different terrain or anything like that. It's just a little bit longer than the smaller one, right? So then I went down, and then the whole way through was like a breeze. It was super easy. It took me 20 minutes to go down. It wasn't even, I probably would have taken less time. I just stopped because I realized I left my phone at the top, and so I had to call through my watch, and then somebody picked it up for me. But it probably would have taken me less time, and the whole way through was fun. Like I had a blast, and that was for me like almost like a physical parallel of what this year looked like for me. was, you know, I had the confidence of like, you know, I could figure it out. You know, how hard could it be? And then I got humbled, and then consistently, and then I got, you know, my ass handed to me, like a lot of pain. In this sense was physical, but in the year was a lot of mental and, you know, a little bit of physical pain too. And then it was really just at a point, like I had a breaking point in this year too, where I was like really just really upset with myself on how like I felt like I was doing so bad and seeing other people crush it, and to the point where I had the thought of like, you know, what if I just like threw in the towel and just got a job? You know, what if I just went back to being a freelancer and just provide for myself, and that's enough? Because like having to provide for a team is a whole nother thing.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like you have to.
I see your overhead and I see
Yeah.
your responsibilities. Like, I don't want any part of that.
People's livelihood is in your hands. Like if I can't bring in the money, then people can't pay their bills. They have a family to feed, and it's a lot of pressure. And then I have my own family that I need to feed. So you know, the thought occurred. I was like, you know, what if I just kind of like gave up? But you know, similar to the mountain where I signed a lease. I put all this money into this place. Like the only way to see this through is to completion. It's not, can't go back. Like there is no going back. Like I couldn't, like, what am I going to do? Like cancel my lease and like return all the stuff to Home Depot?
It's like
And,
you said, you got to get your money's worth.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, I gotta get my money's worth. And there's really no way to finish, besides actually completing it and not just giving up. So, had that moment, and and then at that point I kind of was like, you know what, like I had to really change my mental first, because I found myself in a consistent pity party of like, man, like this year's been rough, like it's been like literally like blow after blow, like just getting hit and falling down, getting back up, falling down, like it was very consistent, you know, like when am I gonna see the fruit of this? And I just kind of developed this really crappy narrative in my mind that was holding me back and causing me to actually make more mistakes and make more problems, and not like value the people that were, you know, in front of me and all these things. And so when I made that mental shift, I decided to do that, and I decided to do a reset, and kind of hence why I'm doing 75 hard at the end of the year. You know, versus waiting till the beginning of the year, and especially doing it at the end of the year. You know, we're traveling. You know, obviously there's good food. Like
Solid
You
food.
know, I was in Idaho last week. Thanksgiving, Christmas is coming up. Like, you know, like it's hard to do that at this time of the year. Plus, it's cold. You don't want to move.
And for those that don't know, because I didn't know what this was, what's 75 hard?
75 hard is a challenge that has gone pretty viral over the internet. That pretty much is just 75 days consistently of doing just simple things, which is two 45-minute workouts. One of them being an outdoor workout, has to be an outdoor workout. The other one can be outdoor, indoor, doesn't matter. And then you have to drink 1 gallon of water a day, read 10 pages, and then stay on a meal plan, and have no alcohol or any cheat meals. And so that, you know, is very simple, but consistently over 75 days is hard.
No Sundays off every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but like the rest of my day my life doesn't just go on pause. Like I still have to work. There's days where I'm working I'll work like 13, 14-hour days.
For example, like, I mean, even like yesterday when I mentioned like you get no sleep, we went snowboarding, we hung out, and then you had to go for another gig, an event that you had to film and document. So you left Bear at the crack of dawn, like around 4-ish, I want to say.
Yeah, 4 a.m. Yeah.
Went back to San Diego area, and then you filmed it, did your thing, came back in the evening. So from here to there is like 2 hours. So total of like, let's say 5 hours, give or take.
Yeah, 5 hours.
And then when I saw you here, I saw you doing your lunges, and I'm like, dude, homie is dedicated.
Yeah, no, I was like, man, I don't want to do this work. It was cold outside.
You
I was
probably had like
tired.
what, 6 hours of sleep, if that?
No, I had 3 hours of sleep. I had 3 hours because I went to bed late, and then my baby just that night was just kind of like I think his stomach was hurting, so he was crying pretty much the whole night, and then it was rough, man. It was like 3 hours of sleep, and I got here, and like I took maybe like a small power nap on the way here, like because I was able to ride up with somebody, and but you know it wasn't enough, you know.
It's
and
not quality.
I got here and I was like, man, everybody's just hanging out, and I really want to just do nothing more than just sit down and hang out. But I was like, no, if I do that, then it's gonna push everything back. And I'm on day like I want to say like 40 something. I don't even like to look at the days, but I'm in too deep. Like I'm not gonna like give up, because it did occur to me. I was like, man, like if there were to be a day that I were to fail, on this day wouldn't be a bad day. Like I was convincing myself, like, you know, like it is what it is. But then at the same time, I was thinking like, well, Caesar and Destiny, which are part of my team, they're doing 75 hard as well, and I'm the one that's leading it. So I'm like, how, like, what would it be if I showed them that it's okay to give up, and then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, like, no. So I did my outdoor workout. It was crappy. It was actually a really hard workout. Like I was doing legs, and my legs are pretty sore right now, and
On
and
top of snowboarding from the previous
yeah,
day.
exactly. Yeah. And then, but I got it done. I was like, I'm going to get it done. And then on top of that, I also didn't want to compromise having that intentional time, because I didn't want to be like, well, I'm going to do my 75 hard and then go to bed, because I could have done that too. But I was like, no, I want to make sure that I
You
spend
get
time.
every right to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, no, I want to spend time with the team. I want to be intentional. I want to do all these things. And then even then, like last night, I went to bed at like, I don't know, like 1 a.m., 1:30. And I could have went to bed earlier, but I didn't want to do that, because I wanted, like, to me, I'm like, I can do both. Like I can do my challenge, but then also be with my family and my friends. But it was hard, man. It was definitely hard, and that's just a season, right? I'm not saying that your whole life should look like that, but to me, it's like for what I need, like it's almost like a forced reset. The way I look at it is. It's kind of like when your phone's glitching out, it's bugging, it's slow.
Turn it off.
You just do that. You hold the power button down, mixed with the volume down button for like a hard reset. And that's kind of what the 75 hard challenge is for me right now. At the end of the year is a hard reset, because I've been in this mental pity party, and even being in a mental pity party definitely dilutes the credibility that you have with yourself. You start to see yourself less of like confident. Like you probably don't see yourself as being able to achieve certain things. Then you go take that into your leadership, your family, and then people can feel that, and then then results show based off that. And I've kind of started to develop like a lack of self-discipline, where I would I was so in this pity party where I would sleep in late, which is not super late. Like to me, sleeping in late is like 7 a.m. because I used to wake up at like 3, 4 a.m. all the time. But I would sleep in late, and I justify that my day was hard, and that's built a habit of like justifying me being okay with the bare minimum. And then doing that over and over, day after day, what I'm doing is I'm literally stacking L's mentally, and I'm deciding to then build a reputation with myself that, hey, like if I say I'm going to wake up early and I don't, and then I justify it by saying, hey, it's okay, then what I'm doing is I'm starting to build a distrust with myself. And it was really hard, man, because then because one of our philosophies in my personal life and my business is how you do one thing is how you do everything. There's no like separation of with your friends and family and business. Like it doesn't matter. And I was starting to not hold my words to to like the extension of how I used to. I would just say things and not do them to myself. And I would then do that with my wife. I would tell my wife, hey, I'm going to come home at a certain time, and I wouldn't do it. I would do it with my team. I'd say, hey, we could start a meeting at a certain time, and I would be late. And then and that would start to then show, and then they start to then have the same exact reputation with me. And then again, it just builds a whole culture of like, if he does it, it's okay. And then some people start doing it, and then so I had to realize that I kind of like at that point where with snowboarding was, well, I have everything that I need. I have great mentors. I have a great facility. I have a great team. I have a great family. I have an amazing, wife that supports me. I have people in my corner. I have mentors in my life. I have, I live in an amazing country that has the opportunity for me to even build a business. We're living in an era of the internet. Like I have everything that I need to succeed. The only thing that's messed up here is me. Same thing with snowboarding. Like I knew everything that I needed to do. I had all the tools. I figured it out. So the only thing that was messing me up was my mentality and the way I approached it. And so I had to then decide, like literally, there's a podcast that I listen to, and one of my favorite things he says is that change can happen in an instant, because it's a choice. Like you can choose to change right here, right now, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people almost see change as it has to be this crazy thing that develops over time, but you can really make the decision. And for me, 75 Hard was a way to kind of make that into a fruition, because it's hard to say, hey, I'm changing right now, but then you're like, what am I going to do differently, So, and 75 Hard is something that I can tell people to hold me accountable and so on and so forth. And I actually did 75 Hard like maybe about a year ago, and I failed it. I failed it like on day like 14, and I didn't try to go again. And I think the difference was that back then I was just doing it because I was like bored, versus now I have no other choice. Like this is my like mentality of like, I have no other choice but to complete this challenge. Like there is nothing else for me. Like if I fail this challenge, I will just solidify all the negative things that I've kind of like went through mentally, and I refuse to do that. So that's why the moments of like coming in, like after working a full day pretty much, and then driving 5 hours, waking up, low sleep, and then being cold and wanting to be inside the cabin with everybody and hang out and still doing the workout is because it's something that I have to do for myself, right? In order to be able to show up well for my team and my family, really. So that's kind of how that is, and those are great learning points. It's the days that you don't want to do it that really matter the most. Because last night when I was like, you know what, like I did that workout, although it sucked, I felt so good about myself, and that then goes into my business. I feel more confident. I feel more equipped to lead, because after a couple falls, then you start to kind of feel like, am I even equipped for this? And then you don't feel like you're a good leader, and then you just kind of like start to half-ass your leadership, and then your team is like looking for that leadership and not getting it from you, and there's so much that goes into that. And yeah.
I love that how you explain what the 75 hard is for you. Like it was a reset, because prior to this conversation, I didn't quite understand what do you mean by reset? Like how does it reset? It's just a workout. It's like a mental toughness kind of thing. But now that you say like, well, I'm pretty much proving myself that I am disciplined and I'm going to do what I say. And then obviously like your teammates, people in your team are like seeing that, and they actually are wanting to do it with you. Because I remember Caesar said like, I saw him doing it, and I'm gonna do it with him. Like I want to be moral support. And so like, and even you've had thoughts where like, man, this would be a good day to quit. And they're like, well, I can't now because I have people that are looking up to me that are doing it with me, and how would that look? I would look crazy if I quit as a leader.
100%. Yeah.
So I completely understand now by what you mean by it's a hard reset.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, that was dope.
100%, man. Yeah, and it's something that I actually like had even doing the 75 hard, I had like I guess an epiphany, because so a couple years ago I was like really upset with myself, because a few years ago when I first got into entrepreneurship, I was extremely disciplined. Like I was waking up super early consistently. Like I had less time on my plate because I was in the Marine Corps working 14-hour days, and that's 14-hour days of me not working on stuff that I wanted to work on. It's just me, doing like physically labor stuff, like toxic environment, all that. And I only had maybe 1 or 2 hours to my day, but I got so much done because I was consistent and disciplined. And over time, once I got out, I've started to lose that discipline. I was like, why? Like I was actually really upset with myself that I was more proud of who I was before than who I am now on the discipline side. And I was like that I'm moving backwards here. Like I'm like de-evolving, and I was very frustrated, and I realized that, like, because what I thought was I built this muscle of discipline, and it became a breeze, to be honest. But then what happened was I had these little moments of compromise of like, oh, well, I'm out of the Marine Corps. I don't have to wake up early. So maybe let's just try sleeping in today. And then I started making those little moments of like, just those little agreements with these poor decisions. And then over time, I started to lose that discipline until I hit to a point where I was like, well, what happened? Like, where did that discipline go? And then I also had another realization that, in that time, when I was super disciplined, I actually hit like a really bad burnout moment in my life. I was, working super hard in the Marine Corps, plus building a business, plus, I had a lot of other mental things that were going on because I was extremely depressed from the Marine Corps. And then on top of that, like what kind of really just like, was like I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was one of my best friends killed himself. In the Marine Corps, and that was just like, for me, like I was already kind of burnt out, but I was willing to hold through. And then when that happened, like I just kind of like I felt like I broke. I was like mentally, I just stopped caring. Like I didn't want to do anything. And I like the one thing I tell my wife is like, hey, if you ever see me like watching TV on a weekday, I'm not okay. Like I don't do that.
Red flag.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you come home and you see me watching TV, like I'm not okay. And the way I know that that's like my like one of my scapegoats is because like there's times where I will come home and I don't want to do anything and I'll watch TV, and then I see my wife's pulling up and I'll turn off the TV like as if I was doing something bad. And it's because like for me, I just wanted to escape into a different reality, and that's kind of what it was for me. And it was really bad, bro. It was a bad hole that I was in, and it took a lot to get out. But once I did, like I feel like I never was the same discipline wise. And when I was doing 75 hard this year, I had the realization of like, I feel like I moved away from discipline, any of the motivation stuff. And I kind of told myself like, oh, motivation is really like cheesy and all this stuff. And it can be
It sounds wild hearing that from me, by the way.
yeah.
Like,
And it could be super like, because for me, like I was consuming, because the first time entrepreneurs, they play those motivational YouTube videos,
Tony Robbins, all that good stuff.
and I did that, and then I saw a lot of people who would do that but would do nothing, and then so I was just kind of mentally was like, motivation is stupid, and then I would just move away to only practical stuff, and then I realized that practical stuff is powerful, but I think you need a good blend of both, right. Because eventually there is going to be days where you need that motivation, right? And so I had those days where I didn't have that motivation because I was like, this is whack, and then I was just finding myself like in this pity party, and then I was like kind of just like, why am I not being disciplined? Why am I not doing that? And I kind of did like a deep dive mentally, and I feel like what happened was that the way I broke that time where I had that burnout, almost like I feel like subconsciously traumatized me a little bit, where I was afraid to go that hard ever again. Similar to like, when you go to the gym and you like, let's say you put on a whole bunch of weights and you squat and then you hurt your back and then you recover from that and you're good, but you subconsciously you're like, I don't want to try to put that much weight on my my back again to be able to put myself in the position of getting hurt. Right. And this wasn't something that I decided. It was just subconscious. And same thing with working out. It's not the weight that hurt you. It's the preparation going into it. Like I didn't have a good foundation. Maybe my technique was off, so on and so forth. So then I realized that I was moving away from super simple foundations and trying to carry this weight. And I was also not even willing to take on more weight. And then I wasn't really like super happy with my discipline, and so that was a really good understanding where I was like, man, I realized that I've been holding back. Like it's almost like I've subconsciously put a wall up of I don't want to go that hard again, but I need to go that hard, because I was thinking, I'm like, if I had the same discipline mindset that I had when I first started in the season that I am today, like I would be unstoppable. Yeah. And then I was like, but what is stopping me? That like I am that person. Like it's not like it's a whole nother different being. Like that's me. I'm like, like why is that not the case here? And I had to do some deep diving, and I realized it was a mental block that I've created to like I don't want to become that person because I'm afraid if I do, I'm gonna get injured, right? Which is not logical, right? But
by deep dive, what exactly do you mean? In case someone is like, they're not enthusiastic about where they're at in their life situation, and they're like, they kind of know it's them, but they don't want to like acknowledge it. So what was your deep dive to like how to like work through that?
Yeah. So for me, the two things that I love to do to go into deep dives are you can do it either way. Everybody's different, right? Is you can just sit down quietly and just reflect. I know a lot of people try to do the opposite. Like when things are chaotic, they try to be on their phone, watch TV, hang out with some friends, drink, whatever. So to kind of avoid those thoughts.
It's like they're scared of like talking to themselves.
Exactly, right, exactly. So you need to have that internal dialogue, and then you need to like almost press into it. And for me, it's just the art of asking questions of really like why, like why is it that I feel super upset about my discipline? And then I go into that question. I'm like, well, because back then I was really good at this, and now I can't even wake up at 4 a.m. to save my life. Like it's just something that like I for some reason have struggled with. But back then it was easy. Like that bothers me. I'm like, okay, why does that bother me? I'm like, well, that bothers me because I know that what I'm capable of. I'm like, well, why does that bother me, right? I'm like, it bothers me because I know that I was able to do it, and I feel like I'm degressing. Well, then why do I feel like I'm degressing? Well, I feel like I'm degressing because of whatever. And
it's like going in a wormhole.
Yeah, just keep going down the questions up till the point where you get to the real root of it. Where I was kind of the way I got to that point was I was asking like, why was that? What was the difference between me being so disciplined then and me being so like what happened on that timeline? And I had to go back, and I actually kind of forgot about that time period, and I realized there was almost like a milestone of that burning out point of like it was literally like I almost lost my marriage. Like I was so like super depressed. Like it was a really bad time in my life, and I realized that I was really motivated before then, and then after all that happened, although I did recover, but I never recovered the same. And I was like, why? And then I went back to last year, where last year, funny enough, I got injured. I actually hurt my back at the gym in the beginning of the year, which is the worst because you're super like amped up
Hikes.
of doing workouts all the time and hitting some goals and whatever. So I hurt my back and I wasn't able to work out for 2 months, and it was really bad to the point where I went back to working out. I was actually kind of scared to like go into it, and I hired a personal trainer to walk me through it. And so that's kind of like the point that I made. I was like, well, maybe it's the fact that I felt like that the mental pain, and it might maybe traumatize me, because I'm like, again, I was like, what is the barrier? Like, it's not like it's a whole nother person. It's different when you see someone else being disciplined and you're like, what, like, how come they're more disciplined than me? Like, they probably had a different upbringing, they have different motivations, whatever. But when you're comparing yourself like to your especially the past version of yourself where you've done it, that's so frustrating, because you're like, I did it before, like, why am I not able to do it today? And it's almost like subconsciously our mind is designed to like protect ourselves. So I think that's what my mind did, was just trying to protect myself from doing that. And it's not always accurate. You know, it's just more of a survival instinct. But in order to kind of like get past that, you have to really be intentional of looking for it. Like, what is the factor here? And questions is the best way of doing it. And also, like, doing hard things too, like going out on a run is a great way for me to reflect, or like even like, you know, like snowboarding. Like, for me, like a great way for me to reflect is really just getting my ass kicked, because you're so like mentally like you can't focus on the other things because you're focused on like your ass getting kicked, that you kind of start to then have to internalize on you as a person. Can't like think about like, I can't blame the snowboard, can't blame the snow, can't blame the day. You know, it's me. Okay, so what about me that's the issue here? And so that exhaustion also kind of puts you into a more vulnerable point. You know, like and even the Marine Corps, like you build the most like close relationships because you guys go through physical exhaustion together. You guys go through the suck together. You open up vulnerably to that person, and then you become a lot stronger relationship wise. And I think the same thing is with yourself. You know, like you do the same thing with yourself. You know, you become more vulnerable with yourself, and you understand things, and you build that relationship with yourself as well. So
I love that you're able to, like I said, point the finger in the mirror, because it's so easy to blame society, the government, the world, weather, blah blah blah. I'm 100% with you, where it's like I'm always looking at every situation like, what could I do to improve? Like, I'm not at this point, like everything else is beyond my control, but I could only control my thoughts, my emotion, and getting after it. But for 2024, now that you have so much realization, what are we planning on doing different?
yeah, 2024, man, for sure. I've been working on a lot of systems internal wise. My goal is, so within my business, one thing I found is I have a tendency to like play the hero of like things go wrong, and I always swoop in to save my team and say, hey, like here's the answer, because a lot of this stuff I know the answers to, but it's really inhibited my team to, one, feel like they solved the problem on their own, but two, to even like want to solve the problem, because then they're always like feeling like, oh,
Dude,
well,
so again, observing from the outside, and I noticed you doing that. Like the way you talk to certain players in your team, it's like, I know you know the answer, but you're like kind of letting them figure it out in a way, like kind of like walking them through it. So like boost their confidence, and just so they could perform overall better.
100%, yeah, 100%, and that's
Good
something.
leadership qualities, by the way.
Thank you, man. And that's something I've had to be super intentional about, because it's also a struggle, man, when it's your business and you're like, man, I know the answer, and I know that if I just say it right now, we can pass this really quick. And it's kind of like your baby, right? Even when you're like having a son, you know, that's been a whole nother thing too. But like, you know, when my son gets to a point where he's walking, like I don't want to like swoop in and catch him every time. Like I need him to fall and learn how to get up. And that's the same thing with leadership. Same thing as being, the leader of a team or an organization. And I have to let them fall and figure it out. I'm there to guide them. I'm there to coach them, but I can't just save them. And I had that habit like in this pretty much the majority of the year, where I give them the answers, and I realized that it was inhibiting them and also myself, because it's made me, almost like it's tied me to them, like in a way that they're relying on me.
Kind of
like,
a little codependency kind of
exactly, yeah. And then on top of that, they don't feel super empowered. They don't feel confident. So that for sure is a big thing. And then another thing is me being able to keep up the discipline that I've built. One thing that I've realized is that, discipline is not something that you master. It's something that you upkeep. It's like getting an oil change. You don't just get an oil change once and you're like, I'm good. You're good for a good amount of time, it'll hold you, but there has to be a point where you're gonna have to edify or reinforce that muscle of discipline, because it will go away. It's like if you don't use it, you'll lose it, right? And my goal is to do that, find a way of comfortability. And the last thing is I want to, something that one of my friends does that I think is super cool, is that every year he has some type of thing that that he does that is extremely hard. That's like whether he like ran the Grand Canyon, does an Ironman, whatever it is. He plans it, he puts it in the calendar, and he has one defining moment every year that's extremely hard, where he always meets the end of himself. Because that's one of the things as a business owner, I think is one of the best things you can do, is constantly put yourself in pain. Because when you get to a point where you do hard things, and the same thing when I was in the Marine Corps, like, I did really hard things, whether it was like hiking 20 miles with 100 pounds on your back, or having low sleep, or all these things. When you then enter the real world, little problems like, somebody not paying an invoice doesn't feel like a big problem anymore. Like you build such a high tolerance to things. But when you don't do that, then those things get to you. Like, oh, someone didn't pay, and then you start stressing out, and you start making stupid moves, right? Mm-hmm. So, I really want to keep that up, and that's another way of doing that, is just figuring out what it is, whether maybe do, like maybe a Spartan race or whatever it is, something that's hard. That's something extremely hard. Not just something that is like kind of hard that I know I can do, like something that I have a question in my mind that I don't know if I can get through it. That's
Ironman, baby.
100%. Yeah, do the Ironman. I mean, I got to train for that, and it's something I do want to do. It's one of my goals. So those are the three things that for sure I want to focus on, and just developing more on my team, being more intentional of keeping my discipline, and then also having a constant milestone every year of something that is super hard that to do, because the way that I think about it is that everybody consistently tries to build out their their job resume, like, oh, what did I do for this company, what did I do for my own business, whatever. But I think it's really, really crucial to also build out your life resume. Like, what are you doing outside of just business, right? What are you doing with your family? What are you doing with yourself? Are you doing anything crazy? Like, and not really just for anybody, but it's just for me to build up that rapport. And now more than ever, now that I have a son, I don't want him to look at his dad and be like, I don't want to be that parent that says, hey, you can be and do whatever you want, but then looks at me and I'm not that, because kids don't care about what you say, they care about what you do, right? So I want to be able to do those things, and he grows up seeing that, because then I know for sure that'll be an impact on him. Right. So then it's just different layers to it. But yeah, man, those are probably the three things.
Dude, I love that, man. Well, let's wrap this up, man. We got to pack and take off. But dude, I love having these kind of conversations with you, because it still blows my mind that you're 24 years old, 25?
25, yeah.
It blows my mind, because like sounds like I'm talking to like a 40-year-old head that's like
Thanks,
full
man.
of wisdom,
Thanks,
so it's like,
man.
props to you. I don't know how you got that gift. So it's clearly natural for you to like speak and have so much wisdom and knowledge, man. So that's why I love having these kind of conversations. I'm glad we connected over a year ago, and we're still hanging out and whatnot. So hopefully I get invited for the next trip.
Yeah, you'll be invited.
Sick.
You'll be invited for sure.
But guys, if you guys do want to tap in with Santiago, definitely hit him up on Instagram. I'll have his link in the description. Feel free to tap in, let him know you came from the Potter. And that is a wrap from us. Talk to you guys later. Peace.
Let's go.